Last time I made a little video about the present perfect, one of the usages of present perfect, which is to talk about uh, past events that affect the present. So past events where we can see evidence of the event affecting the present. One example of this is if we look outside in the morning, we see water on the ground, then we can say it has rained. Because there's water on the ground, it's not raining now. We can see the effect. We know the thing has happened in the past, and we're talking about the effect on the present, and that is why it's called present perfect. Today, we'll be talking about a slightly different usage of present perfect, the use of present perfect when we're talking about life uh, experiences in our lives. So, for example, I have visited the Great Wall of China. I have eaten octopus. I have not eaten insects. I have worked here for 5 years. Okay, so these are, we're choosing to use the present perfect in these cases because the fact that the event has happened in the past is important to the speaker or to the listener, and we want to communicate that something has happened, but not needing to say when it happened. Okay, so let us begin. We use it, as I say, to talk about life experiences. One of the usages is with holidays and travel. So, if I'm sitting and talking to my girlfriend about where we could go on holiday, I say to her, "Where shall we go on holiday?" Or she says to me, "Where shall we go on holiday?" I suggest Paris. "Darling, let's go to Paris." And she says to me, "We've been to Paris. We've visited Paris already. I don't want to go there again." So I come up with another idea, another suggestion. Rome. Rome's nice. You liked Rome. We've been to Rome. We've visited Rome already. I don't want to repeat it. Yeah, it's already on my list. I've ticked Rome off. I've ticked off Paris. I've visited these places already. London? Nope. I've been to London. I didn't like it. It was cold and wet. I've visited London. So, the question, have you ever visited? Have you ever visited Paris? The answer, yes, I've visited Paris. I'm not saying when, but I'm saying it has happened. We've got the contraction there. The contraction rather than I have visited. I've visited. It's probably quite difficult to hear the VE, the apostrophe VE. I've visited Paris. But it is there. Okay. And with regular verbs like visit, maybe it's not a problem if you accidentally say I visited Paris or I've visited Paris. But with irregular verbs, eat, for example, I've eaten and I ate are obviously very different. So I've eaten, present perfect, I ate, past simple. The forms of the verbs are very different. And I've ate, for example, I have ate sounds completely wrong and is completely wrong. Um, and I eaten also sounds completely wrong. Okay, and I eaten is probably a more likely mistake for a learner to make. So I've visited Paris. I've visited Paris. Present perfect. Have you visited Rome? I've visited Rome. Yes, I went there last year. So you see, we switch from present perfect, I've visited Rome, to past simple, I went there last year, because of the last year, because that is a specific point in time. Where I've visited Rome is talking about the whole of my life in the past, whereas I went there last year is talking about one specific time. In fact, last year. Question. Have you ever visited London? Yes, I've visited London. I've been there twice. I've visited there twice. I have. Because the two times, the twice, are not specific times when we're talking. They were specific times, points in time when they happened, but what I'm communicating when I say I have been there twice is that those two times happened at some point in the past, not a specific point. Okay, moving on. Have you ever visited Machu Picchu in Peru? No, I've never visited Machu Picchu in Peru. Have you ever visited the Great Wall of China? No, I've never visited the Great Wall of China. Have you ever visited Annapurna in the Himalaya? No, I've never visited Annapurna. Have you ever climbed Annapurna? No, I have never climbed Annapurna. I haven't visited. They are on my bucket list. A bucket list is a list of things you probably have in your head, or you might have written down on a piece of paper or on your phone. Your bucket list, those things that you want to do before you die, so that when you reach the end of your life, you can say, yes, I have done this, I have done this, I have done this, I have done this. Yeah, I've done all those things, and I'm ready to go now. Yeah, I've had all the experiences I wanted in my life, and I'm ready to go. That's my bucket list. Okay. Okay, so I haven't visited Machu Picchu yet. I really want to go. We use the word yet for something that is a negative, one of the usages of yet, a negative in the past. So if it's haven't visited, haven't eaten, haven't gone to, haven't seen, then we can use yet. And it suggests that you want this thing to happen or you expect this thing to happen in the future if you use yet. You can leave yet out. I haven't visited Machu Picchu. I really want to go. That's fine. That's correct. But with the yet, it adds a little bit more of the idea that you do want to go. Yeah, you do want to go maybe soon. Okay. I haven't visited the Great Wall of China either, but I would like to go. I haven't visited Annapurna. I haven't climbed any mountains in Asia. You can see that those things are things that haven't happened. If we changed I haven't climbed any mountains in Asia to I haven't climbed any mountains in Asia yet, then that suggests that really you want to go up mountains. Yeah, I want to go up mountains. The yet means I want it to happen or I expect it to happen. Another usage of present perfect is for the same reason, experiences, life experiences, for job interviews. So if I talk about a current job, if the person being interviewed talks about a current job, then the current job includes the present. So the job they're doing now started in the past and continues to the present. So they will say, I have worked at my current job for 5 years. I have worked in a call center for 5 years. Right? You choose the present perfect because it includes the present. But talking in general about work history, we can use various tenses, okay, mainly present perfect and past simple. I've worked there for 5 years, or I've worked here for 5 years because it's still the current job. I've worked in many different places for many different companies because they're not specific times in the past, they just exist in the past, and we're not saying when. When I was younger, I worked in a factory, past simple, not present perfect, because it's that specific period in time when I was younger. It's clearly defined, or at least it is defined. It has an end to it. I'm not younger now. I'm obviously not younger now. I was young, and now I'm not young or younger. So during that period, I worked. Okay, we could have I was working, but I worked gives it a more. It's clearer that that is a completed thing in the past. It didn't continue. 10 years ago, I worked in Norway because 10 years ago definitely doesn't include now. So it's past simple again. Another usage useful for job interviews would be talking about education and qualifications. I studied at university, past simple. I have several different degrees, several different qualifications. Yeah, past simple. Sorry, I have degrees, I have qualifications, present simple. because they're facts that are true about the present and true for all time into the future. I have a degree. And the fact about the past, I studied at this one university. If we compare, I studied at the University of Cambridge with I have studied at 3 different universities. The reason the University of Cambridge, the first example, is past simple, is because it's a specific period of time, and it's clearly defined period of time. I studied at the University of Cambridge when I was 20, well, between the ages of 18 and 21, say. Whereas I have studied at 3 different universities, although those are specific, clearly defined times, they are different times. Okay, so it's as if they form a list of experience that happened in the past, and that list, um, they're probably not continuous. 3 different universities, one year, another one the next year, and another one the next year. Yeah. More scattered, more spread out than that. I have attended many training courses because there are many different training courses. You can't remember how many. You know that there have been lots of them. Okay, so again, it forms a list of things you have done. And past simple, I qualified as an accountant 3 years ago because we've got the 3 years ago. It happened at a clearly defined point in the past. Again, we're almost at the end, talking about life experiences. Have you ever eaten? Have you ever eaten durian fruit? I have eaten durian fruit. It was very smelly. Tasted delicious. I will never eat it again because it's too smelly. Have you ever eaten chirimoya? Yes, I ate chirimoya yesterday. Okay, it was delicious. Have you ever eaten insects? No, I have never. I have never eaten insects, and I never will. Okay, I don't think. Have you ever eaten durian fruit? No, I've never eaten it. You've got the contraction, because it's normal conversation. Okay, might be difficult to hear. Have you ever eaten chirimoya? Yes, I've eaten chirimoya. It's delicious. Have you ever eaten insects? No, I've never eaten insects, and I never will. We got never, we got ever. These 2 words in a question, ever, or in a question we'd use ever. In a statement we'd use never for a negative statement. You'd use negative for a positive. You wouldn't use either in a statement. But I've never eaten insects, and I never will, because you don't expect it to happen. I never will for the future, and never emphasizes the negative, and that's absolutely not true. It makes it stronger. Have you ever? Again, it just makes it clearer that you're asking a question about the whole period of someone's life up until now. Have you ever? Okay, so we'll just finish off with a comparison between past simple and present perfect. The past simple probably talks about a specific point in the past. So I worked in a factory 10 years ago, whereas the present perfect talks about some time in the past, some non-specific time in the past. I have worked in 5 different places. I have worked for 10 different companies. I have studied at 7 different universities. Probably not 7. I have studied at 3 different universities, because they're not continuous, clearly defined period or point in time. Past simple to talk about events. To talk about events when they're at a specific point in time. I visited Rome last year. I visited Paris in 2015. Yeah, past simple. I went to Paris last year. They're tied to a specific point. But to talk about general experience when we don't mention the time, I have visited 5 different countries. I have visited 20 different countries, whatever it is, I've visited. We're not saying when. And past simple, without ever, never, yet, or already. Whereas present perfect, we can use those words ever, never, yet, or already. Have you ever visited Rome? I have never eaten insects. Have you visited Machu Picchu yet? You really should. I have visited Paris already, and I don't want to go there again. Possibly. Maybe you do want to go to Paris. Okay, well, that sums up, that completes this particular usage of present perfect. I hope it's been useful. I hope it has been interesting and positive. And I hope that you get to use the present perfect and that you get to eat chirimoya and possibly even durian fruit if you haven't eaten those foods yet. And if you really want to eat insects, eat insects. I haven't eaten insects and I never will. Bye for now.